Hey, welcome back to Frank's Model Works. I'm Frank. In our last installment in this series, we fixed the problem with the short shot on the driver's side in the fender well on the 68 Charger from Revell. It's also kind of present in the 2011 issue of the 69 Charger. So we've got that nailed down on how to fix that. We also figured out how to fix the vestigial nub that's in the 68 Charger body. So we have those problems fixed. They're ready to go. We removed our mold separation lines, and now we're up to restoring detail, rescribing any lines that were shallowed out by our work, and then we're going to move on to, after that, we're going to move on to the final prime, and we're getting close to putting some color on these. So hang in there and take a look. We're over by the spray booth because when trying to restore whatever detail was lost on the 69 Charger body, through sanding and removing the mold separation lines, we want to replace the texture of the vinyl roof. It's not something really that you can do with a paintbrush and stippling like a surfacer or something like that on, because you won't have the uniformity of that a vinyl top in this scale would have. It would be a steep learning curve. So what I want to provide you with, and based upon things that I've done in the past, is what's a tool that we can use where we can apply consistency and predictable results. Spray, but which has the most predictable results because you have the most control over the way that it's spraying. And the answer to that question is an airbrush. So in this application, I'm going to experiment first because we don't experiment on our projects. So I'm going to take the 69 Charger, and I'm going to take one of my old paint mules, and this is an old 67 GTX body that has been relegated to paint mule duties. So I said duty. So to that, I have some Mr. Color Rapid Thinner as opposed to Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. So what would the difference between these two be? The Mr. Color Leveling Thinner has a retarder in it that makes the solvent, the lacquer thinner itself, take a longer time to dry. So while it's drying, the paint actually levels out and makes it smoother. In this case, and in this application, we actually want to have a less than smooth application. We're actually trying to get a texture. And like one of the things that we try to avoid when we're painting is getting like orange peel. In this situation, we kind of want orange peel because that would be very close to a representation of what a vinyl top would look like on a model car, which is why we're going to do that. So we're going to try to experiment using Mr. Color Rapid Thinner and Mr. Surfacer 1000. So when I showed you the surfaces that Mr. Surfacer, which is all part of Mr. Color, which is all part of GSI Krios. Okay. When their Surfacer series comes in almost as if it's like a grit or a level of smoothness, with their most smooth surfacer / primer being 1500, the intermediate one being 1000, and then the coarsest one being 500. 500 you could probably spray out of an airbrush, but you're gonna need a big needle and nozzle package. If you have questions about all this stuff, and this is the first time, there goes the hands, and this one's got a glove on it, but this is the first time watching one of my videos, I have an entire series on airbrushing that you should check out. It's a playlist on my channel. And if this is the first time that you're watching one of my videos, welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. by the spray booth. Things get a little weird while I'm here, so stick around. So, back on the Mr. Surfacer. So because I'm looking for a bit of texture, I'm going to go with Mr. Surfacer 1000. I'm not going to go with the 500 because I don't really want it to be pebbly. Although, if you apply it, you can, if it goes on rough, you could always sand it. You could always sand it down a little bit. We're trying to replicate a vinyl top in 1/25th scale. And this is not the place to find out how to do it using masking tape, because I don't use that method. If you do, cool. Good for you. I don't. I use paint to replicate, and particularly with this type, with using paint, and if you're using Surfacer to get the texture that you want, you can then paint the top any color you want. You don't have to just stick to the whites, the blacks and stuff like that. You can make it any color you want. And if you remember back to the 70s and late 60s, there was some funky, you could get like a green, a really ugly green as a vinyl top. So you open up a palette that you can have more choices and less commonly seen colors as a vinyl top. It's worth checking out. So let's see what we can do. Hold on a second. I'm going to set up and we're going to see what we could do. I'll keep it running. Just keep it running. So pipette might be a little bit difficult because of the thickness of the material. So we'll see what we could do. And again, we're going to try to do a rough 1-to-1 ratio of Surfacer to Mr. Rapid Thinner. So now, what Rapid Thinner does, as opposed to Leveling Thinner has a retarder, whereas Rapid Thinner evaporates very quickly, which gives the paint less time to smooth, which will result in a less smooth finish. Not necessarily a flatter finish, but that could also be a characteristic. And there's ways to, you could play with it and see what happens. The big mantra, and everybody, the folks that have been watching my videos, is experiment first. Take the time to develop a technique that's going to work for you. And it's not just, I might give you the idea of how to go about doing something, but you should still, don't just take whatever I say. I mean, I've said it before. I'm an idiot. Don't just listen to what I say because I say it. Take what I say and then try it out for yourself and see what's going to work well for you. And just because I'm thinning this, it's still going to have a higher material consistency. It's still going to have the characteristics. It's going to be a denser material than the 1500 would, and it will be a less dense material than the 500 would be, naturally. So we're just getting a good mix on it. Like I said, I think I'm going to use my 0.5 millimeter GSI Krios airbrush, and I'm going to pump up the operating pressure and take a look at it before I spray. But that should be pretty well mixed at this point. And if you're just coming in at this point to this series, this is a series on, from start to finish, preparing your model car body from start to finish. So, operating pressure, as I explained in my airbrush series, which you should check out. Check it out. That's set pretty high. So in order to check the operating pressure, let's get you turned towards the, let's get you turned towards the compressor. So these dials up here are my operating pressure. I want this to be neighborhood of, let's call it 17 psi, which is a capricious and arbitrary number to land on, but there's a method to my madness as I adjust the tripod to get the shot. I wish I tried once to like get you guys in closer, but I'm in tight quarters here, and really it's more important to look at my face. Anyway, all right, get up off the floor. I am reasonably assured, not certain, but assured, that this will spray right off the bat, which it does. So we have a pretty wide spray pattern. I'm going to spray it right onto the roof. What did I forget to do? What did I forget to do? I didn't put the fan on. So one of the things, if you increase your distance, you're giving the paint the opportunity to de-atomize. Spraying closer, the paint is still relatively atomized as it leave your airbrush. Closer, more atomized, but higher risk of runs and getting too much material into one spot at one time, which is not necessarily good. So we're going to de-atomize the paint, which is going to give it a rougher texture. So we're going to see how that looks. Okay, we're experimenting here. So I'll wait for this to flash over, but what I'm seeing is there's definitely a texture on here that if you'll notice the side of this body, I was testing out chipping using hairspray. It's why you experiment. So you don't do it on your project and ruin it. Throw yourself back 6 weeks. And if you're wondering why, this body got crushed. So the A-pill is broken, the little glove vein. And it's just, these kits are pretty easy to come by. And, the Hemi and all the other stuff in that. The rear end is really useful. There's a lot of useful parts in that kit. So to use one for a parts kit and a paint mule is not really that much of a crime. And I ain't no criminal. Never got caught. So, what we're looking at is a little bit of texture that I will, when I bring you back over to the tripod, I think would be easier to see. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. And I think this is something that's going to work out. So, I'm going to pour the rest of this in, and we're going to try to spray a uniform pattern onto the roof of this 69 Charger body. It's been roughly masked off. You know, I didn't go crazy. I'm not really, it's still in primer, so it's not like, it's not the end of the world. I just masked off what is going to be. I didn't even bother like exposing this part in here, even though this is still going to be vinyl, because it wasn't affected. I didn't have to sand in there, so I didn't lose any texture. So we'll try to match the texture overall. Now this part right here between the seams of the vinyl top wasn't touched, it wasn't sanded. So what I'm going to try to do is emulate that on these parts of the top that were sanded down to remove the mold separation lines. So let's work on that now. Put the fan on, Francis. Something good. I'm going to clean up the airbrush, clean up the area, put you back on the tripod, and we'll talk. Hold on. Here we are at the bench, and just to reiterate what we used over there to get the texture onto these roofs. For that purpose, I used Mr. Hobby, Mr. Surfacer 1000. Thinned 1-to-1 with Mr. Color Rapid Thinner. As I was stating before, their surfacers come in 3 basic flavors. As you know, they come in different colors, but as far as the density, I guess, would be or not necessarily a viscosity, because viscosity is a function of how much you thin it, but just the amount of material, let's say, as a primer. So this would be the lowest build primer at 1500. This would be a medium build primer at 1000, and this would be a high build primer at 500. This stuff, it's pretty thick. This 500, it is pretty thick. And like I said, you can spray this, but you're gonna need a pretty big needle and nozzle so it doesn't clog up that much. And again, with the rapid thinner, it dries more quickly, giving the material less time to even out on the surface. So you might have a less smooth surface than you would if you used Mr. Color leveling thinner. So let's get that out of the way. These were the ingredients that I used in this instance for this. So it was this Mr. Surfacer 1000, Mr. Color Rapid Thinner, and as always, the love and admiration of your friend Frank from Frank's Model Works. That wasn't awkward at all. Not at all. Very, very weird man. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. So this was the body. Let's see if I can get one of these lights to show you the kind of texture we're talking about. This was the texture that I imparted onto the roof. This is the 67. Technically, I mean, it's a satellite body or a GTX, or there was no Roadrunner then. At least I know that much. Roadrunners came out in wow, everything on this body's broken. 1968 was the first year of the Roadrunner. And as we all know, if he catches you, you through. Not the Roadrunner, the Wile E. Coyote. Stop rambling, Frank. So we imparted a little bit of texture on here. If you're not happy with the texture, before sanding it, I would take tissue paper and rub it down that way, like this, before getting sand, because that'll knock the paint down sufficiently, especially for this purpose. Before taking sandpaper to it, because sandpaper will actually put sanding marks in it. So this, a little wipe down like that. So now let's put him to the side. Don't you worry, Mr. GTX, we're gonna fix you too one day. Here is the 69 Charger with the vinyl roof. I am fairly satisfied with the results. And again, I'll do this. I give this a little tissue polish. It's a thing I picked up from, you can actually, believe it or not, get some halfway decent results by just rubbing something with a tissue. The tissue that I use, if you haven't seen my other videos, is KIMTECH Science Wipes. I saw them at work, and I liked because we were using them for splicing fiber optics to clean off tools with alcohol and these, because they don't really leave a lot of lint behind. So I took a picture with my phone of the name, looked it up on Amazon, and they're there. So if anybody that I work with thinks that I stole them, I got receipts. You can try. So we'll give that a little, but I like the texture. There is a marked difference in texture. It's an obvious vinyl top. And what I like about this method, and you could also use the method used by Mr. Cruz, by Marcos Cruz, and because whenever I talk about a vinyl top, I always link to his video down in the description. So there will be a link to the how to apply a vinyl top according to Marcos Cruz, which I believe, based upon my experience, my results, and my experiments throughout the years, Mr. Cruz has the best method for replicating a vinyl top on a model car, hands down. I'll leave a link based upon my demonstrated results and my eternal gratitude to Mr. Cruz for teaching us that method. So we got that back on there. So now, since this is a video about replacing detail you might have lost when removing your parting lines and cleaning up any problems that you might have as far as the replacing the trim in the fender wells, how do how do you replace any detail you might have lost? Well, you're going to scribe it. But first you're going to have to look over the body of the car and see what needs it, what really needs it. So in the case of the Revell 68 and 69 Chargers, their door lines and the actual panel lines over here and these vent lines are actually pretty well defined. The only time I ever run into anything is if you look right here, the top of the door lines are just a little bit shallow. So what we could do is just run that in there. But besides that, everything else, and I find everything else sufficiently acceptable. If you look right here, the end of the quarter panels, there's a little panel line there, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with its depth. It will take a wash. I think it'll look okay. Another thing that you might notice is I drilled holes here and here and here. So what I did was, let me show you. Hold on. I'm going to pause for a second. I'll be back in a minute. I have returned, and the reason why I drilled those little holes is I have drilled and pinned out my door handles, my rear view mirror. This one in the fender is for the radio antenna. And to accomplish that, I use these. These are PCB drill bits. If you search for that on Amazon, they're a 1/8 inch shank. So you could put these in like a Dremel. I don't know if you, I mean, there's a lot of times you put these in a Dremel. Dremel goes too fast. You're better off. You could also put them in a pin vise. Sometimes I just drill straight in with my fingers like this, holding it like this, and just turning it. Like I feel I have more control. But what I do is, oh, by the way, you can get a set of 0.3. This is a 0.3 millimeter drill bit, up to 1.2 millimeter. They have all kinds of different assortments and sizes, and get a bunch. They're not the most resilient things on earth, so they are fairly easy to break, unless you use them in high-speed applications like a Dremel, but you have less precise handling, so you just have to be careful. They're relatively cheap. Usually one of these is like $9, and you just keep them on hand for all your drilling needs. I find them to be more economical in the long run than buying the old, where are they? Where did you go? Everybody's familiar with these drill bit index, and I don't use these anymore, to be honest with you, because it's so much easier to throw this into a pin vise or into my... Jeez, it's like an attack of the spiders in here tonight. Guys, you got to get out of here. I'm filming. It's easy to throw these into a pin vise and use them. And they're also the same size as most of the Dremel bits. So I like these better than the old drill bit index or that round thing that had them. They tend to break pretty easily too. But what I do is I'll drill a hole shallow enough so that it doesn't come flying out of here, but I drill a hole, as you can see, and then I just insert a piece of 0.3 millimeter nickel rod into there, and I glue it. And now it's much easier during final assembly to place these into holes rather than try to find, like go by there is a slight mark on there where to put them, but this is a more positive connection, and it's an easier way to get them on there and then keep them there. without having to move around that much and smear whatever adhesive you're using. I mean, honestly, usually I use Tamiya X22 clear gloss, because I mean, it's not like they don't have to withstand the force of opening the doors, so you don't really have to go too crazy. Just enough to keep them in place is good enough. Now, for those of you new to the channel, here it comes. I have a series on chroming the parts for your model car, and that's available on my channel. So check that out. This is what the sets look like. They come in all kinds of assortments, all different names, different, like here, this is Union Tool. I've seen, I forget, like this is a different one, XCS. It's whatever the name du jour on Amazon is. But if you search for PCB, Papa, Charlie, Bravo, drill bits, they will come up. So that's how I add those holes. So we'll go back to how do we reestablish the panel lines. See that? You see where I put those right there? I'm going to lose them. I'm going to lose them. You know how I know I'm going to lose them? Because I lost the mirrors for the Mustang that I'm working on. And why is that? That is correct. Frankie's an idiot. Thank you. Don't think I don't know it. So for this one, again, these are the MRP Mr. Scriber. I don't get why everything has to be called Mr. I mean, can't we be on a first name basis with this stuff? It's crazy. This one is the wedge, so it's a little bit thicker. And in this application, because I'm worried, if I go this way, I'm going to pull and scream out. So I'm going to very lightly push. And I'm going to reestablish that depth of this little door line here. Go a little bit deeper, and you can see there's a little bit of difference now from this side to this side. This is a little bit deeper. You don't have to, you're not looking to change the world right here. You just, you know, we're not sawing through so that these doors open. That's a different operation. We'll get to that one day. Once I feel like doing it. Geez, I haven't opened the door on a model car in years. And no, I'm not doing it. If I ever do a tutorial, it's going to have to wait. There's other stuff. So chill. So I like that. It's a little bit better. There's more depth. Whereas on this side, you could see where it bottoms out, and it's kind of close to the surface. This side's a little bit deeper. I could do a little better. Going forward in the series, you'll notice that I only have one 68 Charger body. I left the other one in primer, threw it in the box. Going forward in the series, this body is going to be prepped, primed, painted, detail painted, everything you need to do to a model car body in order for it to be ready. I'm going to be chroming the chrome trim. I'm going to show you how I do bare metal foil, which those of you who know me know. I love the people from Bare Metal Foil. Their product gives me agita. And like how I like to tease my in-laws who are of Italian descent, I'll say words in Italian and tell them that it's Irish, because I'm Irish. I'm of Irish descent. They love me. What's not to love? So, let's see. Let's look at it and a different light. I have a little bit, if you look in here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but on this side of this panel line, so this side towards the front of the car, there's just a little bit over here that I am not digging, even though I'm trying to dig it. But it is dangerously close to a spot where I could very easily jump out of this line, and then we have fun. Because then I'll have to fix that, and I don't want to have to fix that. And I know that I could probably resolve this by pulling back, and that makes me nervous, so I'm going to do it very lightly. Remember the word, catharsis. So, and I think that's a little bit better. I think I got one more that I need to pull this way, and this is the one where we jump out. You ready? Here it comes. Yep, there it goes. Jumped out. Alright, it's not that bad. Looks like it's just in the primer. But this isn't final primer, so it's not a big deal. We can fix that. Not a big deal. Already gone. It was just in the primer. It's gonna come right back up again as soon as any type of lacquer hits it. But that's what primer's for. That's why we're doing body work, folks. If you're placing side bets about whether or not I'm going to sand through all this primer, somebody put me down for yes. Okay. Let me just take a look at that scratch. It's still there. Not a big deal. We'll prime it. We'll see what happens with it. Not a big deal. After this step of restoring whatever panel lines and re-etching and re-adding detail and stuff like that, my next step at this point is going to be to wash the body with I don't even know if it's Dawn, whatever dish detergent is next to my sink, and some warm water, and then let it air dry so that, it gets a nice buildup of dust down here before I try to prime it. This way my paint job looks like a chicken cutlet. Alright, let's see. Hold it up to the light, Frank. How are we looking? Better. But I did burn through, so pay everybody that said I would burn through. Let's try this side. Do a little push. A little push. So some people will do this before they prime. I might do it if I know that it's a fairly shallow line. I might do it. But I'm always usually pretty happy with the depth of the panel lines on these kits. These kits in particular. Every kit's going to be a little bit different. So you have to be prepared and realize you might have to do it. You might not have to do it. Or you don't have to do it at all. You don't have to do any of this stuff. Just slap paint on it and enjoy yourself. Wow, my eyes are getting worse. I wear glasses, but when I'm doing stuff like this, I take them off. Even though they're bifocals, the bifocals that I have are more for like dashboard distance. Up close, I need... I for a while, I didn't need glasses. But now it's starting to get towards that. So... I am somewhat happy with that result. Though I am not happy with this door line right in here. It's still bothering me. Right here. Yeah, that got it. Okay. So, I am ready to wash and then give this a final prime. Before I prime it, I will take a tack rag and wipe it down a little bit just to make sure. And from there, I'll come back after I prime these, after they're washed and cleaned. Washed and dried, final prime. Then we'll see what kind of sanding we need to do on the primer, if any, to get any boogers out. Hopefully not. And then we'll sum up, okay? As far as the 69 is going to go, I am going to paint the top, I am going to paint the body, and I'll apply the clear coat. But just for the purposes of demonstration alongside of this one. But then once that's done, this body is going to go back into, I'm going to wrap it up in something to protect it, and then it's going to go back into the box until I'm ready to build this. So hold on a second and we shall return. Except it wasn't just in the primer. But it's part of the process. So you have to fix things. You're trying to build a solid foundation for a paint job. Don Yost, may he rest in peace, is a hero of mine in the hobby. And a lot of what I learned and a lot of what I do as far as painting bodies is based upon the things that he taught. Even though he liked enamels, and I'm more of a lacquer guy, but I took a lot of the things that Don said to heart, and one of them is the finish on your models is 70 to 80% of what the impression that people get about your build, and with the lion's share being also the engine work and the stance and stuff like that. But that body and the finish that you're putting on it is very, very important, especially if you're going to be showing it to other people. So you wanna give that paint the foundation, the best foundation, the best footing that it can get. And this back and forth, fixing, getting it ready, spot priming, see where we are, it's all part of the process. And at the end of the day, when the finished product lays on your workbench for the first time, totally complete, everything's done, and you went through what it took to make that finish look fantastic, to make every single part of that car, every sub-assembly, every single thing. If you're making every single thing as good as you can, the end results are something to be proud of. And even if you're never going to show it to another human being and the only person that is ever going to see it is you'll be happy that you put in the extra effort. So stick around. There's more to come. The fourth installment of this series is already done. You'll notice that I'm wearing the same things that I'm wearing. There was an editing issue, and this was all supposed to be part 3. Part 3 and part 4 were all supposed to be one episode, and it was just too long. But I want to make sure that I split it into 2 because people flip out for whatever reason. I get it. So I split it into two. But I want to get everybody as much information as I possibly can. I don't want to leave you in the lurch. I don't want to leave you with questions. Because then if I leave you with questions, you stop paying attention and you might miss what I'm saying. And if you're looking at if you're hitting pause and you're seeing, oh, there's an hour and 10 minutes left, and I get it. So I try to make these things as palatable and able to sit down as much as possible. So with that in mind, as always, I got Frizzo's back. I appreciate your support. And until we speak again, my friends, take care of yourselves and be well.